Facebook, hello, how are you? We are live. We are live right now, and we are discussing, of course, Mo Better Blues. Uh-oh, we are actually ready. I can't believe it. It's working. All right, so if you're joining us right now, go ahead and say hello. All right, go ahead and say hello. I have no idea why my YouTube isn't working right now, but it's okay. I can get up and I can change that. But right now, I want to get into it. We're going to be talking about Mo Better Blues this afternoon, or this evening, I should say. It's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States. If you're joining us from somewhere else in the world, please, by all means, let us know. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and share this link about Mo Better Blues and Spike Lee. Spike Lee, again, being an auteur, which is a French word that means author. For those of you who don't know, I am a filmmaker myself, writer, director, and producer, living just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm also an experienced film instructor here in the Atlanta area. I've taught at multiple universities and colleges. It's actually one of my favorite things to do besides making films myself, is discussing and teaching film. Film is a reflection of our culture, of our society, all the wonderful things that we love and adore, but also all of our ills in society as well. And we see some of these things reflected in Spike Lee's film, Mo Better Blues. So just for you all who don't know, Mo Better Blues is, of course, a film by Spike Lee. It came out in, let's see, Mo Better Blues actually came out in 1990. In 1990, oh God, I was still in high school. 91, I went to college. I know, that was a long time ago, right? But it came out in 1990. The film stars Denzel Washington as Bleek Gilliam, Cinda Williams as Clark Bentoncourt, and Joie Lee as Indigo Downs. They were his love interests. Wesley Snipes also stars in the film, as well as Giancarlo Esposito. These are all timeless actors that we see everywhere. Giancarlo Esposito, he's been in quite a few television shows and movies, most notably Breaking Bad as Gus Fring. He was just in The Gentleman, which is on Netflix. And he had another series that was just on AMC. Of course, the incomparable Wesley Snipes. We know Wesley Snipes from the Blade movies. We know Wesley Snipes from a number of projects. Wesley, I think, helped to usher in um, the black, he and Denzel, I would say, both ushered in the black sex symbol, the black male sex symbol era, right? Because they were sexy, they were not what was typically thought of as sexy for black men in the 1980s. In the 1980s, to make it plain, that was a light skin era. I'm gonna keep it real. So if you look like El DeBarge, if you looked like Bobby DeBarge, those were typically the types of black men that were thought of as cute or sexy. By the time we get into Denzel Washington post his Saint Elsewhere days, we are talking about fine, sexy Denzel. Denzel had, he got his teeth fixed. Brother went from, I would say, he was still cute. He went from like a 7 or 8 to a 10. And he was the man in those 90s, Denzel Washington and Wesley Snipes. So they're both in the film, and they play sort of love rivals and professional rivals. Of course, the film also stars Spike Lee. He cast himself as Giant, Bleek's best friend. Cinda Williams and Joie Lee, who is Spike Lee's sister, play Denzel's love interests, of course, Indigo and Clark. So the interesting thing about this film is it takes place in New York, in Brooklyn in particular. And Brooklyn, I would say, is definitely a character in the film because We get a lot of beautiful location shots by Spike Lee. And if I'm not mistaken, just want to double check. I think that Ernest Dickerson was the cinematographer for the film. And so the cinematographer is kind of responsible for the look of the film, how the film is photographed, right? Ernest Dickerson is also a prolific director on his own. Some of you may be familiar with Dickerson's work. Ernest Dickerson, yeah, he definitely was the DP for this film. Ernest Dickerson, you may know him for his work on Juice, yes, Brandon, as well as The Walking Dead. So he was also, let's see, he's directed for Bosch Legacy, Parish, that's also starring Giancarlo Esposito, Raised by Wolves, Interrogation, Godfather of Harlem, The Purge, these House of Cards. So he's done quite a bit of television directing as well as feature film directing. Ernest got his start as a cinematographer. You may know that term also as director of photography. These terms are used interchangeably. Ernest Dickerson shot Mo Better Blues impeccably. Impeccably. It is actually a beautiful film to watch. Lots of reds, lots of blues in there. A lot of the action takes place within a jazz club. John Turturro and his brother play the owners of the jazz club. And it's very highly stylized with the writing. You have Denzel's character, Bleek Gilliam, living in a loft. It made everybody, I think, want to live in a loft. Beautiful brick walls, exposed brick. It was just sharp. It was beautiful. One thing I like about Denzel Washington is that he does show, in a lot of his earlier works, he showed black folks living in areas of New York with, and when I say New York, I'm talking about urban New York, mainly Brooklyn, where it was highly stylized and beautiful to look at. He made you want to live like his characters. And I don't think that's because Spike didn't live that way and he aspired to live that way. I think that was reflective of what Spike was seeing around him, a level of upper middle class black people who had just style for days. And so when you look at Mo Better Blues, that's what you see, is you see style. Casting, I believe, was done by Robbie Reed, who's worked with Spike Lee on a lot of different films. As far as the costuming, if I'm not mistaken, just want to take a look at that. I want to say Ruth Carter did that as well, but I'm going to take a look. Ruth Carter, of course, is known for Black Panther. But these are all people who work together often. And in filmmaking, we definitely work together with the same group of people often. And it's not because we want to shut other people out. It's really because once you get that team assembled, that's your A team. That's the team in which anything can happen. You know that there's, we kind of read each other's minds. So that's why we have a tendency to work with the same people over and over again, right? As filmmakers, because we have developed our own shorthand. We know what the other person is looking for, and we respect each other's work, and we know that everybody is going to bring their A game. So that is what is happening, okay? Now, when we talk about Mo Better Blues, what we're talking about is a jazz musician, Bleek Gilliam, who is sort of obsessed with his own artistry. And to be a successful artist, or even and by success can be measured in a lot of different ways. But to be an artist of a high caliber, it does require you to put in a lot of effort towards your work. You need to put in concerted effort into your work. Um, we really, um, when we are working on a project, we can get transfixed, almost possessed by the work. And it's hard for us to be distracted by others. In fact, we wish not to be distracted. And in the film, we see the women in Bleek's lives as these, what he considers to be um, distractions. And even though he regards them as distractions in a certain sense, he also knows that they are a necessity in his life because he's a healthy, young black man. I mean, this is Denzel in 1990. This is peak Denzel, peak fine ass Denzel, if I'm being honest. And so Denzel is a healthy, red blooded man, which means he has a sexual appetite. So that's how these women are integrated into his life. He's not trying to have a serious relationship with either woman, and he makes it clear that he's not trying to have a serious relationship with either women. So he's dating two women at once who know about one another. Now, that's important to talk about. Can we talk about that one time, church? Can we talk about it one time? If you are watching us on Facebook, go ahead, like and share. Place a comment there. I'm not seeing comments, but I think I see people watching. So go ahead and drop a comment there so I can try to respond to you. Um, but when I am thinking about um, relationships, adult relationships, especially now in 2025, this is what is happening. It's basically a hookup culture where a lot of people are not ready to commit, so they're dating multiple people at once. And even though you may not be in a polyamorous relationship where all three of you, hey Christian, thanks for joining us again. Thank you. Um, Even though they didn't have a polyamorous relationship um, per se, each person in the relationship knew about each other. So let's talk about polyamory, okay? Polyamory is when we make a commitment to be in a relationship, um, which often includes sex with multiple people. We're all on the same page. We've met in most cases and we come to an agreement. Okay? We've met and we come to an agreement that we are all in a relationship with one another. Each person's role in the relationship is defined. There is no, in a good polyamorous relationship, there's no room for deceit. It's all about honesty. And we accept that we're all in a relationship with each other, right? In Mo Better Blues, there is no such conversation. However, each woman involved with Bleek, played by Denzel Washington, each of these women know of the other woman, right? Because Bleek has made it very clear that he's not in relationship with anybody, okay? That they are just sort of having fun. So each woman knows about the other woman. So Christian writes here, dating two women is not for everybody. You ain't never lied, so to speak. You ain't never lied. Because let me tell you something. If you are being emotionally responsible, when you're dating more than one woman or dating more than one person, it can be quite emotionally taxing. Because if you're a good partner, you're trying to make sure that everyone's needs are being met physically and emotionally. Hey, Dr. McCrae, great to see you. So in this film, Mo Better Blues, we don't necessarily see Bleek aspiring to fulfill both women's needs. It's all about these women fulfilling his need, right? The object of desire in the film is Bleek, played by Denzel Washington. We also see the rivalry between Bleek and Shadow, played by Wesley Snipes. They have a professional rivalry where it's the Bleek William group that they're playing in, but Shadow always wants to be the star. And as a matter of fact, Shadow thinks that Bleek is trying to basically hate on him, right? He thinks that he's trying to hate on him by cutting his solos, by not allowing him to shine on stage. They also are romantic rivals because they're both interested in Cinda Williams. Okay? Hey, Dancing Through Life, glad you joined us. So they are romantic rivals and professional rivals. The interesting thing about the film, and this is where the colorism sort of comes in, and this is a criticism, if you will, of most of Spike's films. The object of desire in Spike's films is often a light-skinned black woman, a light-skinned or racially ambiguous black woman. Let's talk about it. So when we think about Mo Better Blues in particular, there are two women who are vying for Bleek's attention or his romantic interest. We have Indigo, played by Joie Lee, that's Spike's sister. She is brown skin, natural hair. She's also seemingly, I would say, the more soft-spoken one, very demure, okay? Love her character. And then we have Cinda Williams. Cinda Williams comes across as the ingenue. She has an early sex scene with Denzel Washington that involves his trombone or horn. It's a horn. And Spike does this beautiful spinning shot where they're spinning around, and he's like, telling her to take her clothes off. Very sexy. And I remember identifying, or at least being transfixed by that as a young adult when I saw it. Right? It's very, very sexy. And he's like, take your shirt off, take your clothes off. After he just fussed at her for interrupting his rehearsal time, he still let her up. And here in walks Cinda Williams. Again, light-skinned sister, racially ambiguous. She comes in, she's sexy. She doesn't play by the rules. She kind of sees the rules and disregards them. And men in this film, Bleek, allows her to disregard them. Shadow, played by Wesley Snipes, is also interested in Clark because Clark is considered to be the fine one, the gorgeous one. And in Spike Lee films, I do find that most of his films, the woman that is sought after the most tends to be the light-skinned woman. Now, we can take a look at who Spike married, and I have a feeling that he cast women that he was attracted to, physically attracted to in most of his films. And when we look at his wife does not deviate from that standard. She's a light-skinned black woman. And, of course, you fall in love with whomever you fall in love with, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, because we know it gets deeper than that. And I can't accuse Spike of being a colorist, but what I can say is when I watch his film, it is very clear to me who he thinks the sexiest person is. And I've worked with a lot of young male directors, specifically black men, and one of the things I always tell them is, dude, if you want to date her, just date her. Don't just cast her in the film, because sometimes you get an actor, she's gorgeous to look at, but she can't act because you just cast her based on the fact that you kind of just want to date her. Real talk. So I'm like, yo, let's not do that. And a lot of men, and even myself as a female director, I'll be watching someone's audition tape and I'm like, damn, bruh, it's fine. But I always have to take a step back, and I have my producers, one of my producers, Naima, and I have some other producers that I've worked with, and we take a step back, and I'm like, is this brother really qualified, or are we just reacting to the fact that this person is what we consider to be attractive? Are they talented? Because if they're talented enough, you can make them attractive on the screen. Real talk. That's just being real. somebody else will find them attractive too. There are different things that we can do: makeup, haircuts, clothing. And when somebody has swagger, that can outweigh all of this right here when they have certain swag, right? Um, so you got to take a step back. So when I watch Spike's films, I do kind of see him casting women that I feel like these are women that he would like to be dating himself, that he finds aspirational. When we look at Joie's character, Indigo, Indigo, again, his sister, she's brown skin, very brown. She has natural hair. She's very slight of frame. And she's soft spoken. She's not quite as, she doesn't exude sensuality or sexuality as Clark does. And I understand that he was juxtapositioning these two characters in the film to show the yin and the yang, how it's possible to be attracted to both types of women, because I think that's possible. But pardon me, I think with Spike, the thing that we have to look at is who's getting the most shine, who gets the most play, right? And he was, thank you very much. He very much was making such an obvious social commentary in the film School Days. So this is something that Spike explores in his films. But in Spike's films, I find that his female characters are less than three-dimensional. I feel like they're one-dimensional representations of what he thinks these women are. Seldom are we allowed to experience these women's inner heartache, their true thoughts and feelings about what is going on. And I'm sorry, I know a lot of people loved She's Gotta Have It, the film. I'm not talking about the series. I'm talking about the film. I didn't. I watched that film at multiple stages of my life because when I watched it when I was a young person, probably about 17, 18, I thought maybe I'm just not mature enough to get it, right? I get it. She's got to have it. She is a sexual being who wants to experience sex and life, and she doesn't want to be penalized for that. Got it. However, I felt like Nola Darling, that character would have definitely been different had it been written by a black woman who was having those experiences herself or had had those experiences, and it would have been different had a black woman actually directed the film. So Chirac starring Tiana Paris, yes. I saw Chirac. I'm one of the few people I feel like that actually saw Chirac in a movie theater. I want to give a shout out to my homegirl Shannon Barber who went with me. Shannon's a good friend of mine here in Atlanta. We went to high school together in Pittsburgh, and I often drag Shannon along to the things. And Shannon does, bless her, she brings me to things as well. She's a hell of a journalist and writer, but I feel like I'm always dragging her to something. So I drug her to see Chirac. I thought the opening sequence was fantastic. I'm actually familiar with the play that the film is based on, Lysistrata. Because I was a theater major in undergrad. The film itself, I think, was just too much of a departure for most people to even get into. Not for me. I think Tiana Paris, I think Tiana as the sex symbol in the film, I have to say, comparatively speaking, as far as Spike's works, it's a bit of a departure. That's how I feel. And I could be wrong. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. But when we think about the love interest or the sexy ingenue in a Spike Lee film, what comes to mind for me are light-skinned black women. 25th Hour, Rosario Dawson. When we look at Do the Right Thing, it was him and Rosie Perez and close-ups of her nipple. When we look at She's Gotta Have It. Nola Darlings was played by Tracy. I want to say her last name is Johns. I could be incorrect. And she was no browner than a brown paper bag. And his gaze, I agree, dancing through life. His gaze has changed with time because hell, if I wasn't a kid in the 1980s and I was making movies in the 1980s, every man that was handsome probably would have looked like El DeBarge, or if I'm being really transparent, Simon Le Bon, because that's who I thought was fine. El DeBarge, Simon Le Bon from Duran Duran, who is white, and Michael Jackson. Real talk. This is pre Skin Lightning Michael Jackson. I'm talking about Thriller Michael Jackson because he was my man. Okay, him, El DeBarge, and Simon Le Bon. Okay, literally, Dr. McCrae. Those were my men back in the day. So if I made movies when I was a kid, literally that's what my love interests would have looked like. They definitely, my love interests, my physical interest in men has definitely matured and changed. And even though some of my friends love to say I have a type, actually I like them brown, yellow, Puerto Rican, and Haitian. Okay, like Fife said from A Tribe Called Quest. Okay. Yes, John Taylor was my man too. Dr. McCrae, we gotta talk. We gotta talk, Dr. McCrae. I knew it was the reason why I liked you so much. Because yes, Duran Duran was my stuff. I used to write them letters. I wanted to see them in concert. And I ain't even gonna lie. This hella black, all the way down sister would still go see Duran Duran in concert, old as they are. Okay? Even Alan Payne and Christopher Williams, I would say, they came in the late 80s, early 90s. They were kind of at the end of that light-skinned, pretty boy kind of look that was very popular in the 80s and early 90s. And like I said, Denzel and Wesley started ushering in a darker-skinned black male as the love interest. I'm still waiting for this to happen to black women. And when I say black, I'm talking about physiognomy, everything looking black. And when I understand that blackness is not a monolith as far as a look or even the way that we all act, what I'm talking about is a decidedly black woman who is not racially ambiguous. She isn't mixed race. She isn't light skinned. She is decidedly brown to dark skinned. Okay? I'm still waiting for us as, and I'm including myself in that, as to come in to fashion and favor, right? And when I say that, I'm talking about having decidedly, unabashedly black women play the love interest without struggle. And when I say without struggle, without her having to endure abuse and hardship. Tyler Perry. Oh, did I say that? Okay. All right. Where she is brown skin, dark skin, and she is the sexy one. She's the object of desire. We have some filmmakers who are doing it, but by and large in Hollywood commercial films, we still don't have that happening. And if we have that, the dark-skinned woman is treated as definitely a supporting actor, not the lead. If it's Lupita is put in a position, if we're talking about 12 Years a Slave, she was definitely the love interest of that rapist master that she had, but she was being raped. You know what I'm saying? And then we had Alfred Woodard, and this is based on a true, this was based on a true story. Alfred Woodard's character was black as well, but hell, she was living in a prison of her own, right? Oh, I had said Tyler Perry, because he will cast a dark-skinned woman, but there will always be struggle with her. She's being abused by her mate. He has a tendency to have a lot of black women abused in his films. And I don't want to see that for us. Can we get it where a black woman is the object of desire who looks unambiguously black? That's all I'm saying. Yeah, Lupita is stunning. Absolutely stunning. I want to see her. I mean, just like Jodie Turner, I think is her name. Absolutely stunning. I love to see them as a love interest in a black led project. In a black led project. That is what I want to see. That's literally what I want to see for us. And in Spike's films, I don't necessarily see that. There has been some evolution, but when we talk about straight up the one everybody wants, even when we look at Left Hand, played by Giancarlo Esposito, his love interest is a racially ambiguous black woman from France with big blue eyes. And in the film, she gets into it with the guys in the band because they call her a white girl. And she's like, she's not white, she's black. And she goes into a big argument with her, with them about her being black. And I understand that this conversation of colorism is something that within our community, since I believe the moment we were indoctrinated and brought to these shores of America, and not just America, but European ran countries, and colonized, and then indoctrinated with other people's standards of beauty, this is a conversation that we have been having as a people, right? So I think Spike attempts to do it in multiple projects. Of course, he did it in School Days in an overt way, but in a lot of his projects, he does sort of bring up these things, colorism, blackness, quantifying or qualifying someone's blackness. It is something that is brought up quite often in his films as a subtext or a subplot to the film, even when we look at, of course, Jungle Fever. In the film, and yes, you're right, David, his wife is also fair-skinned and with green eyes. And his daughter is also very fair-skinned as well. When we look at Mo Better Blues, which is what we are discussing today, when we look at Mo Better Blues, and again, if you like this, go ahead and hit the like button, go ahead and share this. When we look at Mo Better Blues, in the film, these two women are vying for his attention. He doesn't really put much value into these women as being truly worth his time or being valuable until he feels threatened. Okay, until he feels threatened. He feels threatened by Shadow because Shadow is making a play for one of his women, the light-skinned one, Clark. Okay? So he's like, if you think you can take her, basically, go for it. That's what he tells Shadow. Okay? And Shadow, played by Wesley Snipes, is like, bet. Okay. All right. He, during one of the climaxes, I would say, one of the big scenes, not the climax, but one of the big scenes of the film, both women show up at the jazz club wearing the same dress because Bleek bought them the same dress when he was touring Europe and gave them both the same dress. He had bet Giant whether or not, played by Spike Lee, his best friend in the film, Giant said that, I bet you that these women are going to wear these dresses at the same time in the same place. Bleek said absolutely not going to happen. Of course, these women show up wearing the same dress in the same place watching him play. And these women both call him out about it, okay? Which causes him to lose both women, all right? Because I think at that moment it struck a chord, like, wow, thank you for the gift, but like, wow, you just gonna buy us the same dress, bruh? You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't even warrant something separate from you. We warrant the same dress, which is in and of itself okay. And one thing I will say about film is anything that can happen will happen. That's sort of the hallmark of a pretty good film. right? Anything that can happen will happen. Where it becomes a bad film is when everything becomes predictable, of course, because we know exactly what's going to happen. So these chicks show up, they're in the same dress, they both pissed at Bleek, and they're like, really? And he's like, yo, I didn't invite her here, I invited you. That's his thing. I can't tell her where she can come and go from and all of this. And it's like, then he just, like a brother, when he's wrong, it's like, basically, if you don't like it, step. If you don't like it, step off. Like, you know what I'm saying? You know what it was. You knew what it was when you got with me. And if you don't like it, step. And so both women end up stepping off. The climax of the film happens when, in his attempt, in Spike's attempt to defend Giant, who owes bookies money because he's a chronic gambler, Bleek gets beat up defending his best friend Giant. All right. I don't know why black people. No. No, no, no. Jeez. Am I back? Can y'all see me? I love my people, but I gotta say, like, some of y'all work my nerves. I tell you, I go live at 7. What do? You go ahead, and of course, you try to jump in. Hey, if you're still there from Instagram, go ahead and let me know. Hit the thumbs up or send me a comment. Let me know that you're still there. My phone, of course, was ringing because that's what it is wont to do when I am live. All right. So when we look at this climax, Spike and Giant get beat up. I mean, Spike and Denzel's characters both get beat into an oblivion. And Denzel's character is hospitalized for a long time. If you're there right now watching this on Instagram, go ahead, give me a thumbs up or something. Let me know that the connection is back. If you're on Facebook, leave a comment, give a thumbs up. If you're there, let me know. Are we back? Hello, hello. All right. I think I'm back up. All right. Brandon says he thinks there's something wrong with Instagram Live. All right. Thanks, Christian. I know I can see you can see me on. Hey, Akani the Prophet. What's up, cousin? Great to see you here. All right. I think Instagram is back up. So we're resuming our conversation on Mo Better Blues. So when Spike and Denzel get beat up in Mo Better Blues, this is when Denzel's character Bleek, that's a hell of a name, and I'm just going to say this. I love Spike for the names of his characters in his films. And She's Got a Habit, Nola Darling. All right, I'm back, I believe. Are we back? Okay, it looks like we're back. We are back. Christian, thanks for holding on, brother. We just going ahead and we had to get the connection back for Instagram. All right, all right, all right. We'll have this resolved by next week, you guys. Back to our regularly scheduled program. All right, Brandon's back. Hope Dr. McCrae and Akani come back. Open Toe and Alton come back. Waiting for people to get back in here so I can talk about that damn Bleek Gilliam. Because that was Denzel's character's name in Mo Better Blues. It was Bleek. Bleek Gilliam. So if you name a character Bleek, you know things ain't gonna be pretty good for this character. It's gonna be kind of bad. Maybe not all bad, but it's gonna be a little bad. You know what I'm saying? Come on in, come on in, come on in. So when we talk about Bleek as a character, um, Denzel Washington, his character, once he is severely injured and hospitalized defending his friend, because truly his relationship with Giant was like his brother. Okay? His his physical injury led to him having a nervous breakdown. He has this nervous breakdown. We go from him living in a spectacular loft where everything has its place and there's a place for everything, to him living in squalor, apartment destroyed, which is, of course, um, indicative of his. Wow, this thing keeps acting up and keeping people out now. Going back to Instagram, trying to make the connection come back up. So essentially, he has this breakdown. I'm gonna go back out and come back in for Instagram. Try to get back in for Instagram, y'all. Let's see what we can do. We're going to try to get back in for Instagram. If you're on Facebook, thank you for watching. Coming back in to finish up our conversation. For Mo Better Blues. All right, we're back. I had to start this again. So, we're finishing up Mo Better Blues, and we'll be finishing in just a few minutes here. Hey, if you like the content, you want to see more content like this, please by all means follow me on Patreon. Um, on Patreon, you can support independent film and independent voices like mine, like Brandon's, who is my assistant. Um, so when we talk about Mo Better Blues, we have to talk about that pivotal moment where Denzel Washington and Giant are beat up by um, the bookies that Giant owes. Denzel is beat up because he's trying to defend his friend. Okay? And even at the end of the beating, when they're left in the alley severely disfigured, um, and to me, it was the truest representation of what a ass whooping looks like. When when grown men fight, even Shadow was like, that is enough. Like, oh my God. Shadow, who had been Bleek's rival, professional and romantic rival, um, had to step in and say something. And so afterward, Bleek is very much injured and disfigured. So is Giant. He retires and shrinks away from the world, if you will. And during that time, he has a breakdown, a nervous breakdown. He has a nervous breakdown, and his apartment, which was once immaculate, meticulously kept, becomes this squalid, disheveled habitat. It is indicative of how he feels on the inside. He's lost his identity. He can't play his instrument like he used to. He's gone from virtuoso to you know, almost an invalid, so to speak. At this moment, Spike shows us Denzel's emotional decline as Bleek. And again, Spike loves to give his characters these creative names that are also um, indicative of how they should be seen and how they view themselves. Um, and so in this film, we have Bleek Gilliam. We have Shadow. A shadow is something that lurks behind, that's always following you, that's always with you. And that's, of course, played by um, Wesley Snipes. Giant is a play on the name because, of course, Spike's character calls himself Giant, but he's tiny. He's a small guy, right? But he feels big. He feels big on the inside. He doesn't feel small about himself. He feels powerful, which leads him to make some very poor decisions. In the film, Bleek finally, through some way, we don't know how, but we go through this retrospective of these sort of flashbacks of his relationship and his discussions with Joie Lee, who plays Indigo Downs, the other woman who was not the sexy one, who was the demure one, the sister with natural hair and a darker skin. And he starts to reminisce about their conversations with one another. In his reminiscing about their conversations and everything, we see him also healing as a person. So the filmmaker is showing us is through those conversations, through his recalling those conversations, not because of therapy or anything like that, he begins to heal as a man. And he tries to regain his professional stature by going to sit in with Shadow and Clark and their new band. And he does so, but he can't professionally keep up with them. He's a shadow of his former self. He's a shadow of his former self. So, in becoming a shadow of his former self, he decides to leave the club and discard his instrument in the garbage can. He's walking in the rain. It's a very cinematic moment. And he ends up at Indigo's apartment. She lets him in, and he proceeds to fill her head with all of these fantasies and these different things. And he's pleading his case because he needs her. He needs her. And I mean, it is a wonderful, wonderful piece of writing, if I do say so myself. I was transfixed. And in my younger days, I used to think it was so romantic. And Indigo, she sort of cuts to the chase, and she just says, "You're asking me to save you. That's what you want me to do. You want me to save you." And Bleek says yes. As a woman of a certain age now, while all of that is highly romantic in film, in real life, it's destructive. You need to save yourself. You need to save yourself as a human being. There are people who can aid in your saving, but that's too much to put on any one person, that they have to save you. I really do believe that. And I think that a more evolved character or woman in this situation would have demanded more from Bleek at that moment. Now, most films are 1.5 hours long to 2 hours long. So I get it. You can't do all of that in a certain time frame. But again, film is from a man's point of view. It is not from the woman's point of view. Because as a woman, I have questions for the man who comes to my door at midnight in a rainstorm and asks me to save him, who's pleading his case. A lot of women have been through something similar. And in those situations, you have to ask yourself, if you weren't in this dire situation that you consider yourself to be in right now, would you even remotely care about me or think about me and my well-being? Is this plea out of desperation because you truly love me and can't live without me? Or is it because you simply don't know what else to do with your life? So I'm a consolation prize. I'm not who you really wanted. I'm not what you really wanted in this life, but I'm your consolation prize because you ain't got nothing better to do with your time. And you think that I have nothing better to do with mine. That's the real thing here. So when I look at the ending of the film, while it's beautiful, you have music by John Coltrane, a whole ending montage with Coltrane's A Love Supreme, and you see them going from getting married to her being pregnant, to her giving birth, to them having their first child together, a son, who is being pushed in the footsteps of his father to be a musician, and the mother is pushing the son to be a musician like his father, practicing his scales on his horn. On a trumpet, rather. The instrument is a trumpet. It shows that life can be cyclical and it repeats itself. But should it? Should it? Does Bleek actually deserve Indigo? Indigo Downs is her name, so she down for whatever, apparently. She was down for Bleek. I'm not even sure if Spike meant to do that, but that's damn sure what it's coming across for me. Okay? Um, if they were to eventually get together in the film, I think there was a better way, a healthier way to show that than the way the film sort of ended, with her just accepting um, being the consolation prize in his life or second place. His music, I would say, was first place. It wasn't even Clark. Music was the first thing, his first love in his life. And then everyone else. And then everyone else. Um, but what's crazy is that she accepts it. And there are a lot of women and people in general who accept that position. And it's this desperation of wanting to have love, to feel love, and to, it's almost like Bleek was a prize, and she finally gets the prize, you know? But what kind of prize is it? What kind of long term relationship do these two have with one another where, he basically chose you to save his life, not because he was madly in love with you, not because he couldn't live without you in particular. He just needed something and someone to uplift him from the misery that he was going through, that he was really about to endure, because his first love was gone, and that was music. And he couldn't produce music as a musician anymore, as a trumpet player. So, ladies and gents, it's 8:13. We've been on here for an hour and some change. I want to thank you for joining us. And if you had a good time, hit like, hit share. Let me know. Feel free to contribute to the Patreon. If you have questions about the different services that I offer as a filmmaker, as a writer, director, and producer, and as a creative strategist, please feel free to visit my website. I'm putting it in the content, in the comments. Next week, we will not have these types of issues. Again, I promise you, I'll figure out what the problem was with my streaming provider, and I will rectify it. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, or you enjoyed the conversation this evening, give me a thumbs up, give me a heart, hit those stars, and go ahead and hit the share button. I want you all to have a wonderful evening, a great weekend, and stay positive. Bye.